We'll start with the kids. They can do anything. Success looks different for everyone, and they showed us that they can, and they really did on a big scale by being at the MIF Awards and doing interviews on stage in front of hundreds of people and being on Netflix now as well.
You're listening to Around the School Table, hosted by me, Steve Davis, and proudly powered by Zuno Suite. We'll be bringing together the many voices shaping primary and secondary education across Australia, from principals and teachers to education thought leaders and system innovators. Whether you're in the classroom, the staff room, or the boardroom, this is your podcast to be informed, inspired, and connected. Today on Around the School Table, we're spotlighting a school and a story that have captured the nation's imagination. Our guest is Darcy Nolan, lower secondary sub-school leader at Sunbury and Macedon Ranges Specialist School in the Bullingarook campus, which is the setting for the acclaimed ABC documentary, This Is Going to Be Big. This unique film goes behind the scenes as a group of neurodivergent teenagers take on the challenge of creating and performing their very own high school musical inspired by none other than John Farnham. Darcy, a musician and trailblazer himself, helped launch the school's music program from the humble confines of an automotive shed to centre stage, literally and figuratively. And in this chat, he'll be sharing what it's like saying yes to risk, working under the glare of national TV cameras, and the remarkable impact this project's had on students, staff, and school culture. So if you're an educator and you're curious about creativity, courageous leadership, and what's possible when you let students step into the spotlight, I think this is one you're going to enjoy. Darcy, welcome to Around the School Table.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, it's great to be here. I've had to listen to a few, so I'm excited to have a chat.
Okay. Now, before we get into all the nitty-gritty, I want to set the scene because, ultimately we're talking about a show. This is going to be big. It's the ABC documentary, follows the teenagers at your school, and they're preparing for the high school musical, Farnham, the time-travelling trio. So we've got acting, we've got music, we've got history lessons all in one, all under the lens of a TV crew. You must be quite the risk takers at Sunbury and Macedon Ranges Specialist School. Is that fair to say?
I think so. We like to really adopt a yes and attitude. So when things come to us, and it's really important for us as a school to give our students and their families real life opportunities to experience stuff that other students in mainstream schools get quite regularly, things like dead balls and graduations and productions and trips and things like that. So it's something that we pride ourselves on, is being able to give those real authentic experiences, which is how we feel our students learn best and really enjoy. So yeah, I guess you could say it's risky, but for us it's become such a part of the norm that we have faith in what we do, and we're pretty good at it. Quietly, we're pretty good at it.
Well, look, right at the beginning of my career, yes, I had a day job, but I did a lot of theatre and improvised theatre, and that's where I got yes and drummed into me. And I find that the people and groups who can adopt that disposition tend to be the ones who surprise us and themselves by pushing boundaries. So I imagine, dare I say, you'd be an advocate for that yes and approach in most of life?
Yes. Yeah. Look, I think we always say we'll make it work is another thing we like to talk about is we'll find a way and our kids and deserve it. And as a school, we really do, just make it work. And that really gives them those experiences.
Now let's talk about the title. This is going to be big. I understand the name came from one of the students during the filming. So can you just take us back to that moment? And also, what was the working title before that?
Yes. So I think we're going back. We sort of had a casting call, and we had a lot of students sort of try out for different roles. And Hallie, who ended up being our 80s John Farnham, we sort of had her pegged as hopefully being one of our students, because the way the production was written was that those students were going to be on stage for quite a long time. In fact, I think the whole show really. And so we really had her pegged for one of them. But we're a big advocate for student voice and agency. And so we really put the decision to her, and we know that she had an emotional connection to the 80s John Farnham. Her auntie had passed, and her favorite song was "You're the Voice." So that was the song that John Farnham was going to be singing. So we knew that both she wanted to be this big actress that she talks about being, she wanted to be famous and be on stage, and she also talks about that emotional side. So after the end of the sort of the casting auditions, we gave her the week to decide, and when she comes back in the week later, we barely got a sentence out before she goes, I'm going to want to be the 80s John Farnham. And we say, you've got it, and she says not down the camera, but says back to us, thank you. This is going to be big, and that's sort of where it stemmed from. So yeah, pretty special.
Now, Darcy, you're a musician yourself. I believe you've even played on stage with Shannon Knowles. What was it about this John Farnham that made it the right story for your students to tell?
I think that, well, not only did our students connect with sort of, they might not have known the songs, by name, but they could really tap along. And I think it's really ingrained into Australian culture as well that, you've heard them somewhere in your life, and that's no different for our guys as well, whether it's in the car or at home with their families. So, for us, it was quite a natural thing to have him in the mix. And then when it sort of worked out that we were going to do the traveling time sort of stuff, we realized that we wanted to break it up into the decades, and that he had songs or hits in every one of those decades. So two things that sort of really naturally overlapped, but yeah, it came together really well for our purpose.
And being up there on stage yourself, what do you notice in people like Shannon Knowles, John Farnham? What do they bring to the stage that you can see because you're a stage performer too, a musician? Is there something in how they hold themselves, how their mindset?
I think it's energy and connection. Like, as much as they might be playing in a room full of lots of people, and I've done so myself, but you are looking to make those connections, and whether that's through the music or the stage or through acting or whatever, you are looking to make that connection. And those really good performers find a way to naturally do that, and we feel ourselves emoting and connecting with them on different levels. So yeah, I think that's something that I've noticed in lots of them, is there's that genuine connection that they want to be, they want everyone to feel a part of their show and to really absorb and take in their medium, whatever that may be. And there's that back and forth, that real respect that you are the audience, but you're just as much a part of this as I am performing on stage. Otherwise, I'm just a bloke standing in a room on my own yelling into a microphone, So without you, it's not really that special.
I'm sure the unique background of each performer gives them either the chops to be able to achieve that presence or not, depending on how they've got there, which makes me curious about your background, because you founded the school's music program, which at one stage was in an automotive shed, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
That's a pretty humble beginning. Has that actually shaped the culture of the program and the way it's grown over the years?
Oh, for sure. And I think it stems back to that yes and again. Like, we know that our kids really connect with music, and especially our sort of neurodiverse kids, music's such a really big thing in their brain. And, one of the main challenges we had early on was not engagement. It was probably that ambition over ability, like kids really wanting to be that rock star, but not having the skills just yet. So it was really easy to engage them in the program. And I was really lucky to be asked, from a really young age. When I was 18, I was asked by an ex-principal to come on and be bike ed teacher. So I've been around the space since I was 18. So I've really seen the growth of those kids and sort of their yearning for music itself. And then that expression of their own ideas. And so when I was given the opportunity after studying and really showing an interest in that area to take anything on board, I was like, yep, I'll have the auto shed. That's fine. And yeah, we were able to make it work like we always do. And it was very echoey and loud early on, especially during drumming sessions. But no, the kids really loved it. And I was really grateful for the opportunity.
Do you think there's something with the auto shed where it's rough, it's very humble, that's almost like training wheels, so that you can muck up and it doesn't really matter? It's not like a state-of-the-art stadium where you walk on it and even a rehearsal feels like it's the real thing.
Yeah. Look, for us, it was like you said, you sort of that teething period, and it was okay to get things wrong, and like everything, when you take that risk to bring on a whole new curriculum area to a cohort of kids, you really are going to get stuff wrong. And no jokes, no doubt I did as well. But I think continuing to go back to it and to be willing to learn and grow with them. And like I said, voice and agency is massive for us here at Sunbury Mass and Ranger Special School. So really listening to what they wanted, and what was going to work for our kids was something that I really took on board and try to grow and adapt. And that led us to, what instruments we were going to focus on and the songs we were going to learn, all the way down to what colors they were going to put on different things to be able to identify it. So, to try and give them as much control as we can, really helps them engage and feel a part of the whole experience, which is really important.
Now, kids are kids, and in those years, we're developing, we're learning how to be ourselves. And I was actually on a school property yesterday at the time of recording with some of the work I do with some schools, and you just see in the schoolyard little cluster of kids, and they'll want to look at everyone else around them, and maybe giggle at each other and point out something. And if you're a performer and you've just been singing or performing music in a school group, in some schools, that could be fodder for just being picked on and teased.
Yeah.
How do you embolden your cohort of students and performers, should they encounter that, to cope and have an inner sense of poise and presence?
I think there's a few things there to break down. We took a lot of time early on in the program because we had a hiatus during COVID. We like to do productions every 2 years, but obviously that couldn't happen during COVID time. So this was our first production back after that break. So we did put a conscious effort into developing our own vulnerability and their vulnerability around each other. So we did some sessions, Laurie and I, who's the drama teacher, and the performing arts teacher out here, who Laurie Nichols, who's an absolute jet. And she was able to get us out into each of the rooms, and I was there too, and we were being silly and hopping around on my leg and all these different improv games to try and be vulnerable around each other. And once you sort of break down those walls and that vulnerability, kids, I think, really naturally want to express whatever's going on. And yeah, we've still got our introverted kids to have other roles and end up being in different roles throughout the production. But those kids that really dove in and how to go at being vulnerable, and us normalizing the fact that's okay, I think is really powerful. And I think, to go to your second point about encountering it in the yard, developing resilience and sort of confidence in ourselves is something we pride ourselves on. And as educators, not just here at our school, but I know across the board, resilience is a really big thing at the moment, and it has been for a long time. But developing that inner sense of self, to be proud of what you're doing, regardless of what anyone else's opinions are of that, is something that we really try and develop and sort of build in our kids. So having vulnerability and being confident in what you're doing is really the remedy for that sort of stuff, and anything else we can move past.
Now, that's from the kids' perspective. There are going to be some teachers listening to this who think about what you've done and they say, so much could go wrong. They wouldn't even entertain the idea of doing something that's subject to a documentary for national TV. Yeah. What was the mechanism for getting through this? Is this back to that yes and philosophy, which a previous guest, Cameron Peverett, made a lot of too?
Yeah, look, I listened to that one, and when the moment I heard you guys talk about yes and, I was like, yep, that's us. And I think that is actually not just us, but special education in as a whole. Like, you talk to Wendy, and I have lots of connections, and we network a lot across schools, and that's a really powerful tool. But all of us have that real yes and mentality. So it's definitely universal across special ed.
Truce Films approached about 90 schools, I'm told, before they landed on yours. What do you think made Sunbury and Macedon Rangers Specialist School the right fit for their story?
The kids. The kids. Look, obviously us having that mentality, but also, they were the focus. We were in and out of the documentary and the show, but not in a focused sense. The whole focus is on the kids and what they bring and the challenges that they face, and then the attitudes that they bring in face of those challenges is just awe-inspiring. And, we feel really privileged to have access to work with these guys and work with our kids, and it's a real humbling time. And you might be having a rough day yourself, but the challenges that our kids are facing, and they can still turn up and have a smile and have a laugh and a bit of banter and back and forth, and it really sort of opens your eyes and go, all right, hang on a sec, I can pull my socks up here and really match the energy of some of the kids I've got in the room, which is I think is what Thomas, the director, really talks about it being really real and genuine, and the way he filmed as well. There's so many hours I'm sure were left on the cutting room floor because the film style itself was trying to catch those candid real life moments. And so he really didn't want to overpower and overbear. He sort of let it play out and got what he got and was able to make that work. And I think that those two things mixed together, the way he wanted to film it, mixed with the energy and the enthusiasm that our kids bring to the table, just made for a really really nice mix.
Still wrestling with clunky reports? Switch to Accelerus, the gold standard in school reporting. From semester to continuous reporting, design stunning reports in Word, pull data from multiple sources, and share with a click. Easy, flexible, beautiful. Accelerus. Love at first report. Visit xuno.com.au.
Now, a little confession, I've been in one of those sorts of shows, fly on the wall documentaries before. I, after finished filming, really missed not having makeup in the morning and having that attention. How did everyone come down?
I think I didn't miss the getting mic'd up every morning. I'll give you that much. But and having a little camera in the back of my room while I'm trying to introduce myself and get the lesson started. But it's something we got really used to, and so did the kids. So I think well, the kids that were really the focus in there as well. Like they have this immense sense of self-worth and growth and confidence, which it sort of spread to everyone. And I think productions and musicals have a really interesting way of doing that the whole cast, backstage, ushers, tech guys, whatever, have this real awe and sense of confidence when we finish a production. And that just spewed across the whole school. And to the sense where we said our next one was going to happen, which we ended up doing Willy Wonka, which was our next production. Kids were banging on the door going, where's the cameras? Where's this? Where's the microphones? I want to be on TV. And so there was a bit of a letdown there when we said, it was probably a one-off thing, guys. I'm sorry, this one isn't going to be filmed. But it really did inspire so many kids wanting to be involved in the next one. There were roles everywhere. And because Laurie's such a whiz, and we have that flexibility to write our own and morph our own scripts to fit our cohort of kids, we can write in roles and write in characters and remove talking parts and add talking parts to really gauge and make work whatever cast we have in front of us. And whether that's 60 or 6, we're really, really flexible on that.
Your kids are my kind of kids, I got to say. And if they ever need to write in a part for some bloke who just wants to be back on camera or stage again, just let me know. Darcy, I believe you consulted with parents pretty closely with this production, and ultimately the parents of the kids had to give a green light to their participation in the show. What was that experience like, being in the middle of that?
Yeah, look, I think that something that Truce and Fremantle and in turn Thomas and Bus Stop and everyone that was involved in the production of the whole documentary, something that they were really, really concerned and make sure that they had a lot of effort into was the dignity and respect that our kids deserve. It being a mainstream media and being put out for the public now, we had to be really concerned about how it could be interpreted, and that meant bringing in every family and talking about what are their concerns. And we had lots of open forums for them to come in, Zoom calls and face-to-face meetings for them to come in and voice their concerns. And throughout there was consultation with them, especially our 4 focus kids as well. There was continual continual check-ins with them, and that I think created that real clear path and create a clear line of communication around any concerns that they were having. I think that the respect that was shown to our kids and their families helped them come on board even more. It wasn't just we're doing this, can you sign a piece of paper and we'll see what happens. No, they were all individually contacted and consulted about what they thought would be best, and that wasn't just a one-off. That maintained its way all the way through. So I think that they were really, really considered with how they went about it, and that in turn made the families give the thumbs up so easily.
It's interesting because that kind of television lives on capturing the vulnerable moments when we are at our lowest. That's what brings the tension. So I appreciate the level of, diligence and anxiety and attention to detail that would have gone through that. It wouldn't have just been plain sailing, surely. Especially from the mainstream media that the company's doing it, they would have to have risen themselves to curb the more base appetites that make that sort of television work.
Yeah, look, and I think that, there was a lot of work done with, a lot of different groups, especially Bus Stop Films, about, how do we maintain and what sort of things can we do to portray this community, in the right light. yeah, like I said, I couldn't fault them in any way of how they went about consulting and bringing on board all concerned parties and having us all following the one direction, which was great. And then even on top of that, there was weeks where, for our kids, repetition and exposure and having these lived experiences is how they absorb information. And it's not just once time, it's multiple exposures that they really need to have. And so there were weeks there where they would come in with all their cameras and just sort of set up and not even film and just let our kids explore and go over and push the button and touch the $10,000 camera while I'm, freaking out a little bit. But they were so great with just being able to let the kids explore, so that when it came to those filming days and those candid moments that, it wasn't, the kids weren't sort of super hyper focused on the camera being in the room, because they'd had that time to, really absorb and get used to and feel comfortable being in the space with that. And I couldn't fault them. I felt that, for a company that, to their own admission, didn't have a lot of experience in that space, the way they took everything on and grabbed the bull by the horns and really ran with it was really impressive.
Well, bravo to everyone involved, because they could have gone full Big Brother.
Yeah.
or completely sterilised public documentary, which neither of which feed us as humans.
No.
And mind the way, you and your drama teacher next time round, there's a trick to knowing where the cameras are in the corner of your eye and making sure your body's placed to get maximum screen time. But that could just be me. That could just be me. Look, just stepping back from the spotlight and the production lights, what do you think this whole experience taught you about your students, your fellow staff, maybe even yourself?
We'll start with the kids. They can do anything, and they really can. And we've got to change the lens of what we deem success. And I think that that's something that we, as educators, and especially in this special setting, is that we're very good at, is that, success looks different for everyone, and having a clear idea of what success looks like for every individual student really means that they can achieve. And they showed us that they can, and they really did on a big scale by being, at the MIF Awards and, doing interviews on stage in front of hundreds of people and, being on Netflix now as well. So, yeah, really, really awesome to see that. As far as our staff, I think that our staff draw a lot from this, in the sense that it fills our cup and it fills our bucket. In a time where mental health is so rampant and people are burning out, and life after COVID has been such a big thing. Things like this really give us an opportunity to remind ourselves why we do what we do, and to have these moments to really charge our batteries again and go, yeah, this is pretty awesome. We can get bogged down in the day to day and the issues that pop up, but these sort of silver lining moments are the ones that we get to hang our hat on, which is why I'm really jazzed to be a part of them all. And another thing about our staff as well, that was we are, that relational trust that we have with each other, that, that culture we've got where we can really call upon each other, and we're there for each other, whether that be in the classroom doing something or out in the yard helping support, or whether that's a personal issue or whatever is going on. I think that we've really developed this great culture that it's not one big thing. It's lots of little things we do consistently that show that we are going to back each other up and we are there for each other. And then personally for me, I think, it was weird to watch myself on TV, and all my kids now watch me and ask me to put Daddy on, which is always funny. I've got a 4-year-old now, Grace, and a 2-year-old Florence, and a little 4-month-old Louis. But, they love to watch me on TV, which is an odd thing to come into your house and have your kids watching you on TV. But, no, I think it was something you never really have in your brain as happening. We've done a lot of these now, and it wasn't something that was on my bingo card for sure to be on the ABC, but something I'm really proud of, and something I'll think about for the rest of my life.
You know how John Farnham feels.
Yeah.
Darcy, Nolan, thanks very much for joining us on Around the School Table.
No dramas. Thanks, Steve. That was a lot of fun. Lots of fun.